I would now like to introduce Cambrie Nelson. Cambrie is a second-year MBA student from Denver. She's a recipient of the Thomas Phelps Entrepreneurial Scholarship and the Mark Twain Bank Scholarship. I'm also proud to have her in class this semester also. So Cambrie, please, would you share a few thoughts with us?
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you all this evening. As was just mentioned, my name is Cambrie Nelson, and I am a second-year MBA student focusing on entrepreneurship and consulting. So it's no secret why we're here tonight. We're gathered around to think and to eat with one another and to really recognize the humbling power of scholarship. Scholarship to me is a very interesting word. I believe that it could be both a noun and a verb, something that you can have, but also something that you can do. In fact, I remember learning the difference between education and scholarship in 5th grade. Education was described to me as receiving knowledge, whereas scholarship was described to me as creating knowledge. I've always been taken by this idea of creation. It is a little bit of a spoiler alert, I became an entrepreneur. But really far before knowing that creating a business was a passion of mine, I actually wanted to be an author. I really appreciated how they created worlds that paralleled and reimagined my own. And given that my parents didn't have a traditional college experience, I began to weigh the affinity of some of my favorite authors even more heavily. So when it became time to apply to undergraduate institutions, I crafted my college list using what I consider to be a science. I simply selected the 5 most inspiring poets and authors, and I thought about where they attended or where they taught, and I applied to those schools. WashU was one of them. So being accepted to WashU for undergraduate was remarkable, but actually being able to attend was an entirely different story. At that time, what made it possible to attend was a scholarship named the Irvin Scholarship. And I don't believe it was quite a coincidence that the man who stewarded this program, the late Dean McLeod, was also someone who seemed to appreciate authors. In fact, he had a motto that still really echoes with many of the students and faculty alike. He often said, "Our quest at WashU is to know everyone by name and by story." I'm not gonna spend any more time talking about my undergraduate experience because I recognize that I'm really here tonight because of Trent Phelps and Mark Lincoln. And when I think about my return to WashU over a decade since my first day here, I'm reminded of a quote, a Heraclitus quote, that says, "No person ever stepped into the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and they are not the same person." So before re-entering this river, this school, I left, I became an educator, I started a couple of social ventures, and I actually found myself thirsty to metaphorically write new worlds, using business as my ink to leave my mark. I began to see some of the world's challenges not as sector issues, but in fact as a challenge of leadership. And when I thought about applying to grad school this time around, I used a bit of a different science. The science was selecting the schools that I thought were capable of turning me into my own favorite author. And it was so clear that WashU was the only choice. So as I embarked upon my authorship, I would have never expected that the very first chapter of this new book would mean learning how to read stories of balance sheets by the author extraordinaire, our favorite accounting professor, Tom Fields. But truly, I marvel at the caliber of faculty and staff, the nimbleness of a community that is really inherent to a small program, the encouragement to take risks like multiple finance classes, that really, I'm truly encouraged by my peers. And certainly the ability to take the merits of Olin outside the classroom. Even tomorrow, I'm heading to Philadelphia for the Net Impact Conference. But most of all, I really relish the opportunity to grow not just professionally, but personally, experiencing the spirit of entrepreneurship in every single corner of my Olin experience. In fact, I remember one time, the very first time I walked into our Associate Dean, Joe Fox's office, to ask him a question. I thought it was a big ask. I was asking him to really essentially tailor my MBA experience to more readily fit my interest. And I thought that I was going to be encountered with the question, why? Why would you do that? And instead, I got a response that has really I've become accustomed to here, which is why not? I think that's emblematic of our experience here at Olin. It's an institution that invites students to participate in shaping the school, continually asking why not, and being daring and willing to create. Creating is not a solo endeavor, neither is being an entrepreneur. It requires the collective. So when I think about scholarship, I think about my definition of it, creating knowledge. What I think about is the work of a business school of all schools, amongst being the most important of jobs to undertake, generating leaders. To create some of the most poignant, powerful, influential, and ethical leaders necessitates being able to be surrounded by them, taught by them, being able to use the safety of a classroom to emulate creating the world that we hope to see beyond these walls. This leads me to experience the ideal of scholarship as not only for the recipient, but also for all of us. So I appreciate and I deeply admire all of you, donors and peers, who recognize that the best Olin is one that rigorously works to resemble the world and to bring it right here. So look at our world. Truly look around. Look around. I know when people do that in a speech, you're curious about it, right? But look around. When you look around, I want you to hopefully think about those of you who have led careers that have led you right here, and to think about those of us who are about to embark on careers that will hopefully lead us right back here, and how we're going to embrace the spirit of entrepreneurship to create this world. I think that this is doing scholarship, and it would not have happened without donors who are willing to give scholarships. So to the donors in the room, on behalf of myself, my classmates, and our future world, thank you.
Thank you, Cambrie. Thank you so much.